everybody, thanks for tuning in for another video. Today we're going to be doing a full review on the Kayak Terrova from Minn Kota. Had this thing for the whole summer so far. Let's talk about it. Alright, so before we begin today's video, just want to give a quick disclaimer that nobody gave me the trolling motor. This is something that I purchased with my own funds, my own money, and this entire kayak, the Hobie itself, is set up and funded by us in the channel. So just kind of want to throw it out there for the quick disclaimer that Minn Kota did not give me this trolling motor, and no one's paying me to say the things that I'm saying about it. So let's kind of take a deep dive, and I want to show you guys how I set it up first. And then we'll talk a little bit about how it functions, what I like about it, maybe some cons and pros. But let's kind of take a deep dive. I'm going to turn the camera around here. All right, so we have the camera turned around, and I'm going to show you guys the trolling motor itself here. This is the Kayak Terrova from Minn Kota. This is a brand new system for 2025, and Motor Guide no longer makes the trolling motor for the kayaks, of course. So they've kind of basically taken the Motor Guide, made some tweaks, and then called it its own, the Minn Kota Terrova. It's the Kayak Terrova, actually. This is a 35-inch shaft, and I believe it's a 55-pound thrust. So that is plenty for the Hobie right here. I don't need a whole lot of power to move this thing. I could still get a lot of movement, not even at full speed. So something that's really cool that I like. Quick disclaimer, something too that I add is that you will have to buy a couple mounting brackets in order for this to work. So for the Hobie, the PA 14 and a 12, I assume, is going to obviously need some sort of bracket that actually mounts to the kayak. Okay, so this is a one objective bracket. And this is the one up here, between the trolling motor and the one objective, is actually a Minn Kota mounting bracket. So it's two brackets you have to purchase in order for this system to work. So you have to get the one to mount to the kayak, and then you actually have to get to the one that is from Minn Kota to mount to the trolling motor to then mount to the plate of the kayak. I know there's a lot of words there, but you have to get those in order for you to get this working. Standard controls here for the most part. It's got a power button right here to turn it on and off. It's got a little battery meter here, so you can kind of see where your battery is at. You hold it there. I'll show you. Of course, my battery is fully charged, but that's kind of how that works up there. You see a little hole right here. I actually had drilled that myself, and the reason being is because I need something to engage and disengage the locking mechanism. So I have a pull cord, I'll show you, that I have, again, on my carabiner that wraps all the way through here and comes out right here, that basically hooks up to the other carabiner here. So when I'm ready to, drop my trolling motor, I just pull this cord, and I actually hold this cord too because I don't want my trolling motor to slam. And then I kind of just let it go gently, and then the trolling motor will disengage. If you see here, I have an Anderson Connect system. So this wire comes from Minn Kota on the trolling motor already, but you have to get some type of connecting system. So this is the Anderson Quick Connect. I have it running through the kayak, out to the back to this little Yak Attack mounting hole or bracket, whatever you want to call it. Then has another Anderson Quick Connect all the way up to my Newport battery. So that's kind of how I have it rigged up right now. It's probably the most simplest way. It did take a little bit of time to obviously, crimp all these wires and get the Anderson connects in here and kind of just wire this through the standard holes that come from Hobie. But once you get that, you're pretty much golden for the most part. I have this little cord here too. This is what I use to, pull the trolling motor up, or basically hold the cord so it doesn't slam down onto the bracket when I'm releasing it. And so it's pretty simple for the most part. I'm going to show you guys how it works real quick. So I'm going to put the camera in a different angle and kind of show you guys how to drop it and how to, obviously put it back. Okay, so here we are. I have my little carabiner that's attached to the mounting, basically the locking mechanism that kind of keeps it in place to engage or to disengage it, I guess you should say. So I'm going to hold on to this rope here because this is what I typically will hold on when I engage it. It's gonna pull down. It releases right here, and then the trolling motor is gonna naturally drop and fall, and locks into place just like that. I do want to show you guys how this remote works. It's pretty simple too as well, so we'll demonstrate that. All right, so just want to show you guys how this functions right here. This is the remote itself. A couple key controls. This turns it left, this turns it right. This is the main power button here. The plus and minuses are basically the speed levels. You want to adjust your speed to go faster, you can hit the plus. You want to slow it down, you can hit the minus. This little anchor, of course, is the spot lock. This is probably my favorite feature of the kayak itself. The little rabbit here is basically a kind of like when you're trying to haul to like a spot and you need to go fast. This basically turns up the speed all the way to the max. Okay, so let's turn it on real quick, show you guys how it works. And then when you want to turn it, you could just hit the little arrows. Want to speed it up, you could hit the plus. It's pretty quick. Shut it off, hit the power button there. Turn it back on, hit the power button. Slow it down, hit the little minus button, and so on and so forth. So again, this is the spot lock, the feature that is probably my favorite piece on the kayak itself. All right, so that's kind of how it looks on the kayak itself. Now I think it's time, let's talk about some of the specs, some of the pros and cons, but let's get this onto the table so it's a little bit easier to kind of talk about it. All right, everybody, so we are here with a tabletop view of the Kayak Terrova from Minn Kota. Let's talk about some of the price points and some of the specs of this trolling motor itself. Comes in at $1,600, and when you kind of factor or compare it to some of the other trolling motors that are on the market, it kind of it fits, you know, the budget range. I think Garmin is coming out with obviously a new trolling motor for kayaks too. That's even more expensive. That's almost double the price point of this. So $1,600 for this trolling motor that comes with the 2-year warranty is actually not a decent, you know, it's actually not a bad price for it. For what you get, you know, you get the spot lock out of it. You get the 2-year warranty from Minn Kota. It comes with pretty much almost everything except, you know, you have to add your little quick connect system. So, you know, $1,600 is a price point. It is a 55-pound thrust, and it comes in a 36-inch shaft. And obviously you can control how deep you want the shaft to run in the water by just kind of this turn of the knob, and you kind of adjust the length of it. So if you're fishing deeper water, you obviously can put this down all the way. If you're fishing more shallow water, that's when obviously you're going to want this. You're going to want this to come up a little bit lower in the arms. That way, not too much of the trolling motor is actually sticking into the water. So, you know, obviously a nice, quick, easy adjustment. Just turn of a knob here. In terms of the speed that you get out of it, I'm able to go like 4 miles an hour comfortably without having to max out my trolling motor. I'm actually a pretty big guy myself too as well. I'm 6'1", 250 pounds. I have a lot of gear on there too as well. So I have like 5-6 rods. I have my Yak Attack box in the back. I have my lithium battery in the back too as well. I have my Garmin unit up front, my brackets and everything like that. So, you know, there's a lot of weight on it, and this thing actually moves the kayak pretty well. It's not as fast as the NKs, you know, but the NKs has its pros and cons too as well, right? This is a thing that offers something that some of the other ones don't. It offers a spotlight feature. I think that is really awesome. And we'll talk about more about that, but this offers a spotlight feature where maybe like the NK doesn't, right? So you have that ability to use it here. Again, it's not the fastest, you know, I guess trolling motor, but it does a job pretty well, and it moves you pretty quickly if you need to. The quick thing about this is that if you are running a trolling motor on a kayak or any kind of motor on a kayak, you have to get your kayak registered. I can't stress it enough. It has to be registered, and you have to have your stickers on there. I actually got stopped by a sheriff on the water because he couldn't see my sticker, because my sticker is actually red for the next couple years, and my kayak is red, so it's kind of harder to see that. But once I kind of like pointed it out, obviously the sheriff had saw it on the kayak. So just note that you will have to get this thing, your kayak, registered if you want to run this trolling motor or any color or any other kind of a trolling motor on the kayak itself. Now, if you're not running any kind of trolling motor, then you're fine. You don't have to register your kayak. If you run the pedal drive system on there without any kind of motor, electronic, gas, whatever it is, you're fine. You don't need to have the kayak registered, but just note that you will have to be registered if you use the Kayak Terrova right here. So let's talk about the spot lock feature, because I mentioned that a little bit earlier. I love it, but I also hate it at the same time. So I have a love and hate relationship with the spot lock feature on the Kayak Terrova. Where it shines is if you're fishing river currents. Because if the current is coming down and you're kind of positioned, to cut the current or pointing into the current, this handles very well because the current is coming right at you, and the spot lock feature basically holds you in spot of where you need to be if you're fishing in front of you. Okay, where it doesn't shine too much is when you're fishing a lake and there's a subtle breeze and it's pushing you one way, or if there's like a wave coming and it kind of pushes you a little bit. The spotlight feature, I don't think, is smart enough to recognize, to exactly pinpoint which, I guess, direction your kayak should be facing. It just kind of puts you into that area, I guess you should say. And that is probably my biggest gripe about this, because if I'm fishing a kayak, especially my Hobie seat doesn't turn around. Like I can't turn around, my seat like I can in like maybe like a native, kayak or some of the other kayaks out there. So I'm kind of positioned in like kind of like a 180 degree. Like I could fish a little bit behind me a little bit, but it's kind of a little awkward. I could always obviously sit positioned differently on my seat, but again, if I'm fishing like that for a while, it's not comfortable. So that's my only gripe about it, is that if there's a subtle breeze on a lake and my kayak is being pushed a certain way, I'm still in the general vicinity of where I was. It's just that my bow of the kayak is not pointed in a direction that I want it to, or I set it to. So that's probably my only gripe about it. It doesn't bother me too much, because if I'm fishing a general point or area, I'm okay with it because I'm usually in the right direction where I need to be. But if I'm mid-strolling, I think that, or if I'm using my Garmin unit, and I have my my transducer pointed a certain way, and if I'm pushed just a little bit off, obviously my transducer is not going to catch what I'm throwing out there. So I always have to constantly adjust my transducer on my pole in order for me to see my Sakamana shad or my jackall fry, whatever it is, whatever I'm throwing out there, or even my jig or jerkbait. I have to adjust it at times if my trolling motor is not putting me in that same direct angle. So that's the only gripe about it, is that FFS and fishing with this thing on a lake can be a little bothersome if you're fishing on like I said, if there's anything that's pushing you a little bit on the lake itself. But like I said, if you're fishing a river system and you are bow pointed into the current and your trolling motor is running, I have had no problems with that at all. It actually works a lot better with that, because the current is kind of just you're basically getting pushed by the current, and your bow is keeping your kayak forward. So that's probably my only pro and con, I guess I should say, about really so much of the kayak, is that feature. In terms of how this thing functions, I've only had one issue with it where it kind of like didn't cut off when I wanted it to cut off. So I was actually hightailing. I'll share a little bit about the story. I was actually hightailing on a lake, and it was really hot outside. Don't know if that had anything to do with it, but I was actually hightailing from one spot to another, and I let this go like not all the way maxed, but it was pretty high in terms of the speed, and I was basically hightailing from one end of the lake to the other. So I was crossing the lake basically. And when I got closer to where I wanted to be, I wanted to shut it off or slow down. And for some reason, this would not respond. I was clicking the turn off button. I was slowing it down. I tried every button on here to shut it off, to slow it down, and it wouldn't. So I was getting closer and closer to shore, and so I had to obviously figure something out. And obviously, I could have done two things. One is obviously I could have pulled my Anderson Quick Connect to just shut the power. But I had enough time to basically take my fishing rod and hit the power button and turn it off. Once I turned it off, I waited a couple of seconds, turned it back on, and it functioned like normal. I haven't had that problem ever since. That was actually my first time using this trolling motor, and that's when it happened. I haven't had that issue since. I've tried to replicate that issue, but I haven't had it happen before, or I haven't had it happen after, I should say. So maybe that was just a one-time fluke with it. But other than that, that was probably my only malfunction I've ever had with this trolling motor ever. So I'll take it as it is. And I've been on this water. I've been on the water a lot. I've utilized this thing a lot. I've been an hour on the lakes for probably 8 to 10 hour days. And other than that, I haven't had any simple malfunctions whatsoever. One thing that I will talk about that I really like is I've fished some dirty stuff. I've fished a lot of weeds too as well. And I've never had to clean off my prop, which is very interesting because it's just a simple prop with a little bent edge here. It cuts through weeds very, very well. I have not had to, take my trolling motor out of the water and run it to clear this off. Maybe I'm just not fishing as thick as maybe some of the other people, but I have not had any issues cutting through grass with the prop that I have here that comes stock on the trolling motor itself. So in terms of what you get for the trolling motor itself, I think you get a really good of a deal. You have the option to obviously utilize your spot lock feature. You have the option to run whatever lithium battery you want to choose. And I actually have a Time USB lithium battery that I utilize for the trolling motor. And again, I know it's probably more related to the battery than it is the trolling motor itself, but when I'm out in the lake for 8 to 10 hours with my 140 amp hour battery, this thing doesn't even drain half of the battery. I probably get a quarter, maybe a third-ish, maybe of the battery drained. And if I'm using a third, that's because I'm really like hightailing a lot and moving a lot. But I have not gone to near half of my battery with this thing. And so this doesn't really drain that much battery. Not to say that this because of this. I know it's also because of the battery itself. But this it does a fairly good job out there. I haven't had any problems with it in terms of draining the batteries, or I haven't had any issues with it not functioning besides that one incident that I had. Please note that you obviously will have to get some sort of a system. So the cords, the electric cords, the power cords, electric cords, whatever you want to call it, come stock like this. But it doesn't have any kind of a system or a quick connect system on it. So this is something that you'll have to put on yourself. There's a lot of videos out there on how to do this. And guys, you don't need to be an expert to do this yourself. I am not an expert. I just watched a couple videos. I've Googled a couple things, and I got a couple Anderson quick connects, and I basically connected them. And basically my entire trolling motor system is based off of like 3 or 4 Anderson quick connects, and it works just fine. I haven't had any problems with it, no issues. You can get this thing wet, shake it off, plug it in, it will just work just fine, no problems whatsoever. So just know that if you obviously want to go with this trolling motor, you would have to figure out some sort of a system to kind of get this plugged into the battery itself. So that's probably the biggest project you probably will have with obviously running this kayak, because it doesn't come with any kind of quick connects. So overall, just want to give you my overall thoughts about this trolling motor. I think it's a great purchase. I've purchased it in the spring when it was very, very hard to find. This was not easy to find in the spring. This is a 2025 brand new release for this year. Once Minn Kota purchased Motor Guide completely halted. They stopped. Obviously, they kind of they don't make Motor Guide anymore, essentially. And so Minn Kota basically came up with this, and this was very hard to find. I paid full retail price for it. You're probably still gonna have to pay full retail price for it. I don't see a lot of these on the market right now because they're so new. You could probably find a Motor Guide out there. I think Motor Guide works just well too as well. I don't have it. I've never used one, but obviously, I've used this for the whole summer, the spring, summer, and fall, and I really, really like it. One of the things that I thought about obviously too is obviously maybe getting an NK for the back, but essentially, that's going to add more weight to it. I'm going to have to run a different battery system for it too as well. So, I am probably just going to stick with this trolling motor as my means of kind of getting around. And like I said, if you use spot lock a lot, like myself, it works. It works. Just know that if you fish a lot of FFS and your kayak gets turned around a little bit, you're going to have to adjust, obviously, your life scope or your transducer a lot. But that's just part of fishing, So Other than that, like I said, it's a great purchase. I really like it. It gets my stamp of approval. Again, no one is making me or paying me to make these videos. This is all funded and purchased by myself. So if you guys have any questions, shoot me a comment. If you guys have one, and if you guys like it, maybe don't like it, there's a pros and cons, or if you have issues, very curious to hear your thoughts about it. I have not had any problems since that first incident where I couldn't shut it off, or I couldn't actually stop the trolling, or this basically was not working. And it could be just a connection issue. I have no idea. It just happened one time and never happened again. So obviously things happen, and it obviously didn't happen again. So I'm not really holding that against Minn Kota. It could be just a simple thing, but really like the trolling motor. Definitely a bigger, pricier purchase, $1,600 for a trolling motor. But if you're looking for one and you really like utilizing the spot lock feature, I think this is something that you can get. If you guys want speed out of a trolling motor, this is probably not the best one for you. It does well, but there are faster options out there like the NK. But again, with something like the NK, you don't have the spot lock feature, like the Terrova. So something to obviously, there's always pros and cons in everything. So you have to do your own research to figure out what you want the most. That way you can make the best informed decision for your purchase. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys enjoyed some of the footage that I've rolled and put into the video itself. Hope you guys enjoyed, obviously, how I set it up. And if you guys have any questions about how I set it up, how I rig it up on my kayak or whatever, whatnot, shoot me a comment. I'd be happy to kind of talk to you guys about it. Other than that, guys, we'll see you guys in the next video. I'm going to talk more about my battery, my lithium battery that I have, the Time USB one. I really love it. Thanks for Simon for obviously putting me on that battery. I have had no problems with it at all this year, and so I'm going to give you guys my in-depth review and kind of my 2 cents on the Time USB battery. So we'll see you guys on the next video.